If you didn't know, this is my benchmark defense portfolio, and my legal name is Angel Ivan Garcia, but I added Gutierrez to honor my mother. You're welcome. In my environment, I grew up in Bayview, specifically on Quesada Avenue, and the way I like to summarize my neighborhood in one short little story, so I don't have to keep on explaining, is a little game me and my brother played when we were children back then, and it was firecrackers or gunshots. So what happened is that usually around the 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock range, when we're kind of forced to go to sleep, we'd usually hear pops in the background near our neighborhood. And me and my brother would try to formulate whether it was a firecracker or a gunshot. And at a certain point, we got so good that we could differentiate the cracks from calibers, which is not a good thing. And I'm laughing or I'm smiling because of that, because I use humor to cope with my environment. It's not a very good coping mechanism because you have a tendency to find everything hilarious and not serious. But generally, I've trained myself to make sure I find it funny first, and I can be serious about it, so it's a way I can actually comprehend it and analyze it. Which is a research artifact for both history, immigration policy from multiple perspectives. What causes someone to migrate, you're wondering? Well, migration is categorized in 5 terms. Poverty, which is the lack of resources or thereof. Armed conflict, which is the government versus a partying group and the use of weaponry and loss of life. Social strife is a violent disagreement between 2 groups. Political turmoil is a high agitation or irritation in relation to the government. Environmental degradation is chemical or biological interference that makes a certain area inhabitable. And these all incorporate to why people migrate, and it's for usually better opportunities. And this is a picture of my father, a real life example of why he migrated because of poverty and social strife in his community. And so, my second artifact, which resembles my thesis on being a critical thinker, is When the Elephants Dance, Analyzing the Power of Storytelling by Michelle Torres in English class. In this class, during this project, we studied the Japanese Imperial Army's military occupation of the Philippines. If you're a history buff, that is between 1942 and 1945. And we also studied family in the Philippines that is hiding from the conflict. And the family, we also learned that the family uses stories to teach life lessons and to distract from the whole conflict going outside. And for history buffs out here, this takes place before, or the weeks or days and weeks before the Battle of Manila and during the Battle of Manila, which is 1945. And the requirements we had to create a newscast and an immigration essay. In a newscast, we had to pick a role, we had to create a script, draft, and we had to, of course, act the newscast. And the essay was in tie-dye format, so of course 2 pieces of evidence, corresponding 2 pieces of evidence, discussion, and we had to argue the framing question. Another note, each evidence had to be from a different perspective. The framing question is, what is the value in being knowledgeable about diverse perspectives on the immigration experience? My policy, of course, was sanctuary cities. Luckily, in San Francisco, California, the place where we resonate, is a sanctuary city. A sanctuary city, you might be asking, is a city which needs immigration authorities. So, luckily for us, if you are an immigrant from another country, ICE, which is an immigration authority, has less jurisdiction within the country. So legally, they are not allowed to look at you, or they can look at you, but they can't legally be allowed to detain you on the basis that you may look like an immigrant or that you are an immigrant. And with that, I also discussed that it's very important to understand other perspectives, or why you should know more different perspectives, because if you solely rely on Trump's perspective on the whole immigration issue, you will perceive immigrants as hostile, and their main goal is to cause chaos within the country. And so my counter evidence for that, I stated in my essay, is they state a recent analysis of the FBI crime database by UC San Diego, political science professor Tom Wong found areas that are considered sanctuary cities, or sanctuary jurisdiction, have lower rates of crime, including homicide, than non-sanctuary areas. And so this blatantly counteracts the fact that Trump claimed that sanctuary cities actually breed crime and they cause needless deaths, but by this FBI crime database statistic, it is actually proven that they actually have lower rates of homicide. So if you solely rely on Trump's information, you have no idea that actually sanctuary cities jurisdictions actually have less crime rates when it comes to homicide. Connection to the real world. Connection to the real world was that being able to understand one story is really evident in law enforcement. If you're a detective for homicide and someone just got murdered, obviously you have to investigate witnesses. And with witnesses, you have to listen to the story. You have to listen to their alibi. And so their alibi is very important for you as a detective because you have to understand and listen to what they were doing at that time and to see if their point is really lackluster and doesn't really make sense to what happened and the times are loosely based. And so being understanding of the story and analyzing it is very important in law enforcement. That's how crimes get solved. And so connection to other classes, a way to connect to other classes is the ability to critically think and follow up with evidence. As you stay here, or as I state here, it's evident in history. If you like to make a claim saying Obama's the worst president, of course you need evidence to follow that back up. So you might look up information on deportation statistics, either drone strike statistics, casualties of said drone strikes, also economic like either increases or decreases within the country itself. Maybe there was an unemployment rate that skyrocketed and we didn't know about it, or maybe an unemployment rate actually lowered because of it. But if you make a claim, you have to follow up with evidence, and so you have to think critically on which evidence you want to select for your claim. In connection to other classes, being able to, or analyzing to strengthen one's own argument is evident in history and science. I'll use science for this one. So, if you claim that a metal, or if you claim, or let me rephrase this. So in science, or in chemistry class, we had a project in the mystery metal lab. So with that, we had to figure out what the mystery metal was. So we had to make a claim. And with that claim, we had to analyze its reactions to other corresponding elements on the table. And so with that, you kept analyzing the rate of reaction, what comes at the reaction, so temperature, bubbles, or if the actual material itself dissolved in its solution. And so you kept analyzing until you got a finite result. But this way it all connects back to my thesis, which I will restate again. Education has made me to a critical thinker by allowing me to understand and analyze multiple different perspectives. And by that, I analyzed my whole family story. But another connection I've made was to my brother and my relationship, or my brother and my relationship together, and how that connected back to the relationship and when the elephant stands between Domingo, who was a rebel leader in the war between the Americans and the Japanese, and between Feliciano, who was the traitor of the Filipino people. That connected back to our relationship because Domingo and Feliciano hated each other at first. But as they learned each other's backstories, they learned to accept one another. But they still have the differences, but that the fact that they connected at one sole basis is that they didn't really have a strong father figure. And with that, that connected back to me and my brother's situation and how we had a struggle between our father, and father had different, I guess, favoritism within the both of us. We both connected back to the point that our father isn't the most perfect man, but we have to accept him. And that connects back to my thesis because by understanding and analyzing why these people hate each other at a deeper level than just because they're ugly or because they're not this. I understand that they create these stigmas to either have a scapegoat or to indulge into their agenda, either be politically, religiously, or ethically. The skill I learned was critical thinking because I analyzed and evaluated what's, atrocities man has created to fit my art piece. I try to analyze them and evaluate them at a critical level to understand which one fit my messages better and which ones don't. And obviously, on my art piece, I evaluated the 6, and then added a 7th one, which is my prediction. And communicating powerfully. I spoke on generational and global hatred. And with that, I mean, this is racism that's still continuous, still vibrant to today's society. Of course, we still hold some anti-Semitism against Jews, and of course, there's still some racism against Africans. There's still, or in Mexico, a few years back with our previous president, but he had policies, immigration policies issued, which demanded demographical stability or balance, which is a legal way to say we don't want anyone else besides these people. And so they deported a lot of Guatemalan and other corresponding Central and Southern American countries, but accepted with open arms Spanish and German immigrants because of demographical balance. So hatred, they're either passed on generations or just because of stigmas created by the whole world, is still very evident. So of course, if you claim Obama is a horrible president, but you have evidence that suggests that he's actually a good president, that kind of contradicts your whole point, and your essay is just lackluster. So of course, you have to critically think on which ones fit best for your point. It all connects back to my thesis, which is education has made me to a critical thinker about how me to understand and analyze multiple different perspectives. A strength I resembled was understanding. Not only did I try to understand my father's story, but I also try to understand the perspective of someone who is anti-immigrant and see why they feel like immigrants aren't a good thing for the United States. And with that, I also try to use my critical thinking ability because I didn't want to neglect the fact or automatically attack the fact that they are anti-immigrant and they aren't giving me a chance, but I tried to understand and delve deep into why they think that. And I became responsible. By that, I mean, I actually wanted to do my work. I was very responsible with my work. When it comes to my personal narrative, I always made sure I was typing it, making sure I showed them stories to help me out to make this more articulate and more like advanced than my current abilities are. And so I really cared about my project, and I was very responsible and very on time with it. But weaknesses I demonstrated within my piece. I might use my art piece, or I will show you the mistakes in place. They are not refined images. It's one of my weaknesses. My art piece, especially if we're very nitpicky, within the optic itself, there are very little crevices that go into the circle itself. So in itself, it's not really a circle, but a segment of lines that are curved. So it's not a very refined piece. Now that doesn't make any sense, but what I'm trying to say is that it's a very sloppy circle. And so if I were to put more effort and more time into that, I would honestly get a better circle. In a way, I've planned out for that is that my current project, final for Matt Christensen's class, is a 25-hour project. In that project, I have a 5-foot piece of wood. In that 5-foot piece of wood, I put so much detail and effort into making sure that all the images and shapes are precise and are actually refined to make up for the fact that I don't have refined images in here. And a weakness that I demonstrated, and it's very evident in my life, is time management. I am not very good at time management. I am very horrible at that. My mother would ask me to wash dishes, and I wash them 2 hours later. She'll ask me to wash them at 6 o'clock, and I'll wash them at 11. I'm very bad at time management. And so to combat that, I have a plan set out. It's a little late, but at the beginning of the school year, I bought a time management book, or whatever they're called, or like a calendar thing. I don't know what this is called. Huh? A planner. I purchased a planner in the beginning of the year. It may take me about a couple months since August. How many months is that? Too many to actually use the planner. But I finally used it, and it's still not fully effective, but I am using one, and I've actually planned out this whole month myself. And so that is the way I've combated my horrible time management. And so we reached a conclusion. Hallelujah. And so the way it connects all back. In Artifact 1, I became more analytical. By that sense, I mean, I analyze my mother's struggle and my father's struggle in Mexico, and how that might relate to other states within Mexico itself, and how maybe other states suffer from other problems, while other states might suffer from this problem. So that I might mean maybe Guadalajara is or Jalisco, apologies, Jalisco is suffering from a gang problem at the moment. So that might be social strife. And maybe the federal district is suffering from poverty. So of course, they immigrate for poverty or for economic issues.